Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Simone in the background. So let's test out some of our things here. So if you can hear me, so, write a message in the chat so that we can make sure that everybody is able to hear and see. Hello, Bernadette. Great messages. Here's the chat. You can ask questions. Is everybody able to use the chat? Let's check it out because we are going to keep everyone muted during the workshop. Great. You can hear me. Awesome. And if you want to introduce yourself, say where you're from, what city you're from. I know we have visitors from all over the place. So that would be awesome. The other thing that we use a lot is raising our hand. So if you have a question, you can either put it in the chat or you can raise your hand. So let's all test out the hand raising feature. There's a little button. Is that right, everybody? Larissa. There's the little clap guy. Myrna is the hand raising. Oh, okay. Maybe our.
I only see the clap and the thumbs up.
Okay. So we can do a thumbs up if somebody has a question or a clap. Okay, awesome. So everybody can hear me. We can get going. I'll just go back to my speaker view and I'm going to share my slides. So before I get going a little bit, we have an awesome session planned today, and some of the things that we've been discovering as we do Zoom sessions is some people sometimes show up that we don't want here. So I've got Larissa and Myrna on standby, and we're like super cool and super good at kicking whoever doesn't belong out. So if that ever happens, we have all kinds of things in place, and just give us 5 seconds to get it all sorted. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I just want to introduce myself. So I'm Dafne Canales Lees. I'm running Project Lemons to Lemonade. It's a project that helps entrepreneurs find more tools and meet thought leaders through interviews. We've been doing interviews on LinkedIn and sharing them on all social media. And every Wednesday we share a different webinar. And today is about storytelling. And I'm very passionate about the project because in 2018 I had a double brain injury that took me years to recover, just recently recovered. And I know how much I would have liked to have had a network of support. So that's what I'm creating for other entrepreneurs, is what can we learn from each other, and how can we all not just survive, but thrive as best as we can through what's happening to us today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share some of my knowledge. Okay, so today I'm talking about what I'm super passionate about, and it's digital storytelling. And the way that we've been doing digital storytelling this whole time has been really trust-based and sensitive to our audience. And now it's such a perfect time to be able to teach it and just go more into the sensitivity so that you guys can do that in your business. So I have some examples that I'm going to show you, but this is kind of like the landscape of what's possible in digital. I've made this kind of fun slide that shows all the different places that you can be online. So YouTube, social media, you can be on online listings. So controlling your narrative is really important. So on your Better Business Bureau, Yelp, wherever you're showing up online, what I always recommend to my clients is to Google your business and actually Google yourself if you're the CEO, so that you can see what's being said about you. And what you want to do is just talk more and more in your narrative. So sometimes the Better Business Bureau or different things online will say things about you, and you want to be in control of the story that's being told about you. So you come up with a couple paragraphs. Maybe some places only allow for a certain amount of characters, so you need to optimize whatever those characters are, but you should always be in control of everything that's said about you. One of the things on the right side here is Google My Business. It's one that's missed a lot by entrepreneurs, just really optimizing that free listing that Google's giving you. And you can post stories there. You can add extra pictures. So not just posting pictures of your the front of your store, or the inside of your store. Try to you can post pictures that are like graphics about your latest sale. There's just so many different things that you can do and be really creative and fill it in, because when people are searching, they'll see, oh, the pictures of your, the front of your store or the inside or some of your work. So if you don't have a storefront, and that's what's happening to us right now, is we don't have a storefront, what you can start posting are things that you're doing in your business. So it's a great way to tell stories. We know that social media is a great place to tell stories, and sometimes it's a bit scary to do storytelling if you're not used to it. So that's what I'm going to show you, how to create kind of like a storyboard today. And we've got Kelly Finley is my guest, and I'm going to do a storyboard on her. So that's going to be really fun. And then newsletters. So now is a really good time to create stories, share them on social media, and you can see which ones people are interacting with, which ones people love or maybe don't get traction, and then share the ones that are good on a newsletter. There's a lot of companies who didn't used to send newsletters, or maybe they sent them once a month, and now they're sending weekly when they learn how to give a lot of value through storytelling. So that's what it's all about, is people will love to get what you have to say or hear what you have to say, as long as you're providing a lot of value. So that's what I'm gonna show you today. Okay, so this is my favorite stat. This is a lot of the research that I've done over the last 20 years is all around how to get people to trust us digitally, because with digital, it's different than one-on-one, person to person. You're in like a two-dimensional space, so you can't tell the same stories, or you can't get the same feeling than if you're in person. So there's all these studies. There was over 500,000 websites studied, and the researchers were looking at how fast people leave the page. And when we talk about websites, it also could be social media. So when you think about, when I'm explaining this stat, think of like everything online, you actually only have 7 seconds to capture somebody's attention. And if you notice when you're networking in person, you also might notice that, you kind of react to somebody in a microsecond or maybe 3 seconds. You kind of know that whether you want to hang out with them or not. And you can't leave, right? Because you're a nice person. So you stay there and you chit chat, and then you leave when you can. But online, all we have to do is press back. And 7 seconds is that critical point where people leave or they stay. So if you can capture somebody's attentions for 7 seconds or more, as you can see on the graph, they're likely to stay for many minutes and visit many pages. And that is so important online, because if somebody is staying for minutes, that means they're interested in what you're talking about. So you want to make sure that you have something interesting there for them to see. And if they're visiting many pages, that's a great qualified audience, because they're checking out what you're doing. On mobile, we actually only have 3 seconds. Because everything's happening so fast. And what's tricky right now is this number is getting shorter and shorter, because when you browse, Google has made everything so fast that when you get to a website and it slows down, that it becomes a negative user experience. So you want to make sure that your pages load really fast on your websites and whatever you're working on. That's one of the biggest metrics that Google's looking at right now. The other thing about the 7 seconds is when you're writing things for any kind of content, headlines, especially on social media, you want to think of it, you always want to think about the 7 second rule. And what that means is like that first line, what does it say? Is it captivating? Are people going to click read more? Or is that little piece, does it need some tweaking? So there's a lot of tools out there, headline generators that you can browse through, plug in some words, and start to get ideas of how you can create those first 7 seconds, have a great experience. and tell like a mini story there that captures people's attention. My favorite example is news headlines. They're always using alliterations, and sometimes, you know, we know the news gets a little overboard with their sensationalist headlines, but in general, they're trying to educate us. And so think of those. Think of that one-liner as like a news headline. What's going to bring people's attention in? So this is the whole kind of premise of storytelling. Most times when people are doing digital marketing, they put 20% of their effort into digital marketing, and then 80% of their effort goes into returning people's phone calls, answering their questions. So it's a lot of human work happening on that top bar. We want to use the 80-20 rule to bridge the knowledge gap. So what we want to do, especially now that everybody's online and there's less one-to-one, but this is what I teach all the time, because digital is going to be one of your biggest assets. It's a way for people to get to know you before they get to meet you. So what you want to do is flip that around, and you want to do 80% digital marketing effort. And what that means is that you're bridging that knowledge gap. You're telling a lot of stories. You're kind of like opening up the curtains to what it's like to do business with you before people meet you. And then what happens from like a sales perspective is that now you only have 20% human effort, because you're not answering frequently asked questions. You're getting more qualified customers because they've identified whether they're the right fit to work with you or not. They know what your process is. They've seen client case studies, and now they're done the education part of their research. They're more on the buying side, and that's what that knowledge gap bridges for you. So it's a super important concept to remember. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken all of that research and I've built the 7 Second Trust Storytelling formula, and it's really simple. This is and what I want to do before I tell you the formula is actually think about how storytelling works. So this is actually from Jim Collins. It's his book, Good to Great, and he talks about the hedgehog principle. It's about are you a fox or a hedgehog? And the fox is somebody who's like really good, or a business that's really good at a bunch of stuff. And the hedgehog is about being just really good at one thing. So these are kind of the principles that he talks about. What are you deeply passionate about? What can you be the best at in the world? And what drives your economic engine? And so this is obviously, somebody could teach a workshop on this, you know, just by itself. But the point in storytelling is you need to think about what you're going to be teaching or storytelling as it relates to your business. So what are you passionate about? Write a whole bunch of stuff there. What are you an expert at? That's what the blue circle's about. What can I teach my customers that it's so like well known? Like, this is what I'm teaching today, for example, is such a simple concept to me, because that's the world that I live in, but it might be, you know, you might find new tips from it. And of course, what drives your economic engine? So everything that I teach, everything like when it relates to marketing, for me has to end in a sale. So everything always has to lead to that sale. So even when we're talking about our staff and our digital storytelling, we want to do it in a way that we're always thinking about our customer and what's their perception. How are we going to drive that sale? How are we going to make connections online? Again, in that 2D world, without getting to meet the person or explain, you know, or check the nuances or see what, you know, get that feedback from them. So to me, that's what this figure represents. For Jim Collins, what drives your economic engine is, it was more about how are you going to monetize this, and maybe the way that you monetize it is really unique. So they talk about Southwest Airlines and how all the airlines were counting seats, and that was their metric for how they're making money. And Southwest Airlines was counting like planes flown, and they just had different metrics. And that's important too in your storytelling. If there's a way that you're able to make money or change the framing, so I talk a lot about framing, then that's going to make a huge difference in your results. So again, part of the storytelling is figuring out what you're going to say. So this is another one that I love. So we work a lot on target market and really refining how your customer perceives you. I teach a lot about how we should be thinking about human to human interactions, and not, even if we're business to business, it's like John at the oil oil and gas company, or John, the CEO of a software company. So what you want to think about is what specific result did John get from working with you? And when you start writing those things down, you're kind of brainstorming for your storyboard. So when we did this thing for John, so let's say you're an event company, and you're talking to John about your events. That's your main point at the company. What did John get from you? So John got credibility, better status with his company. He had, like, things were a lot easier for him because you took care of everything. So those are the kind of things that you want to brainstorm when you're thinking about your storytelling, because it's got to be specific to the person that you're talking to. I have one more question here. Also, like, above and beyond what benefit John got, what other transformations happened in John's business or life because of what you've done for him or her, John or Jane. And so now John's more relaxed. And so these are all the things that you want to think about when you're planning your storytelling, is always thinking about that target audience. Just like if you're a movie director or you're a magazine publisher, you're publishing what you're an expert at. Okay, so I brought in, this is one of my favorite stories from storytelling, and it's from the Great Depression. And it's so, on point today because of what's happening. And but I've always loved this story. So Kleenex made so much money during the Depression because of the way that they position themselves. And so it's an example of how this is like maybe like an unnecessary item during the Depression, but they were able to show in their stories, and you can see like how great even the imagery and their headlines are. So like cold germs, and I thought it was kind of funny because we're kind of in this space where we're like, oh, germs. And so there's like 2 beauty crimes. So you can use Kleenex to take away your take off your makeup because it's so soft. It helps you kill germs. So there was all these different positioning statements, and Kleenex was it was totally unnecessary. People could use water and cloth, and it was this disposable piece of soft paper, really, and they positioned it in such an awesome way that today Kleenex is like a name for tissue paper. We don't call it tissue paper. We say, hey, do you have can I borrow, can I have a Kleenex? You don't say, can I borrow a Kleenex? So here's some great storytelling, and I super love old style copy. So I'm always looking for, like, we're in the copywriting world, we call them swipe files. So it's like these old like newspaper clippings, and there's so many amazing things that were happening in magazines when people were like super passionate and experts at telling stories in magazines or in newspapers. And what the big takeaway here is, they were always educating. So if you can see that second one that says cold germs, there's probably like a little article in there about how it helps, and you can see there's like the mini, they're showing the tissue and like the fibers in there. So you can get really granular about how your business runs and show all those details. And remember, everything about your business, but your potential customers don't. You usually know 10 times more, and that's like a huge difference. So you want to go back to the basics and think of having an intern or a high school student, and you're trying to teach them everything about your business. What would you tell them? How would you explain it? Get really into the details and kind of like that scientific part of your business that makes you different and shows your passion. Okay, so here we are finally at the storytelling formula. So I used the 80-20 rule. I used the 80-20 rule to come up with this formula. We got about $50,000 in grants to test the formula on 3 different industries. And what I was testing was, if I share these story elements, are people going to click? We tested it on social posts because it was like the fastest way to test. Let's say we put it on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And if when we use this formula, we used it on a medical device company, a software company, and a manufacturing company. Will people click on our call to action as much as the rest of the valuable content? And so again, the idea with the 80-20 rule is that you're sharing 80% valuable content, and 20% of the time you're salesy. So what's happening is you're teaching your client that, or your viewer, that you always provide valuable content, and now you have permission to sell to them. And again, that's what's going to happen, or that's what's happening today, is that you can, as long as you're helpful, as long as you're sensitive to what's happening out there, we all understand that we still have to make a sale. And when we make a sale, so even when I call it my promo feature, or I call it salesy post, it's always like in a benefit way. So it might be talking about a product that you have, and then, hey, everybody, this is how, we've been helping people, and this is how it could help you. And if you want to call me about it, that'd be great. And you can be a little bit stronger than that, but it's just depending on your industry. But that's what we need to be doing today to get our messaging right. So let's go through each one. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to share is I use this formula when I do. So we specialize in high-end sales. So sales that are between or a minimum $5,000, $10,000 per client. That's what our formula works best on, because we do a lot of content, whether it's video, articles. And so I want to share some of the stats because it relates to this formula. So we have an orthodontist, and we had, like, from 0 to 90 days, they got 96 qualified leads. So they were able to call them back. 36 of them came into the orthodontist clinic for an appointment, or booked an appointment, and then 9 turned into sales in a 90-day period. And I really credit that to the story, like telling a really good story, because when people see the orthodontist online, they're kind of like seeing them everywhere. Like I mentioned, you Google yourself. So what we do is we Google our client, make sure we clean up everything digitally, because what people are going to do naturally is that they're going to try to discount you or discredit you. So they're going to say, okay, this sounds awesome, but like, what do I need to know? Like, what are other people saying? What's the trick here? So you want to make sure that your whole digital presence looks great, that your branding is the same everywhere. So your LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Yelp, wherever you are, you always have the same logo, the same look, the colors, your people look happy, people want to do business with people. And so that's how you create that overall presence, again, in a 2D world, right? And when they come into your office, you want to have that same look. So make sure that whatever you're doing digitally, it reflects what you have in your office, that you're not presenting yourself one way. And then there's like that distrust when they show up and they're like, oh, something's off, but I can't really put my finger on it. That's what you want to create digitally. So let's start with company story. So company story is talking about like right now, the important thing is for a CEO or a spokesperson to come out from behind their desk and start talking about the company. Some ideas that I'm going to show you in a second are about saying, hey, this is what we're doing this week. This is let's say the digital plan that we have, and we're talking to our clients, we're being helpful in this way. And maybe during this time, because we're all, closed in, we're all online, talking once a week about what's happening in the business, giving that company update. Usually the way that we use the formula is that we will interview the CEO, tell their story, we'll talk to staff members and tell their story in a way that relates to company values. So if your company's fun, maybe you're an airport parking lot, so we want to talk about travel, and we want to talk about cars, and like, what's your favorite car? Where do you go to travel? So you relate those stories to your business and how your business operates. So it's an opportunity for your client or your potential client to get a feel for who they're going to be doing business with. We also talk about personal things that, as long as your staff's okay with them, but things like they love their dog, or they go fishing, because again, people want to relate to other people. So they're going to be like, oh, she loves to fish, so I love to fish too. And maybe I can relate to her, and I'm going to go check that company out. The next one is client story or community story. So depending on your business, you might have client case studies that you can show. when you show your client case study, you want to think of it in two ways. One is making your client look awesome. So getting professional pictures done, writing a story of what you did for them. And then two, making yourself look awesome. So what did you do? What was the transformation? If there's any stats that you can provide or any processes, because then that starts to show that you know what you're doing, you're organized, or whatever it is that your business does, but you kind of go a little bit deeper than the one paragraph. From a search engine optimization perspective, if you're putting all of this on your website, pages that have over 2,500 words, which seems like a lot, they rank the highest, so they get the most views and they get a lot of traction on the search engines. But if you imagine it as a 15-minute conversation, I think generates like 10 pages of content. Think of it that way instead of thinking, oh my God, I got to write 2,500 words. Just have a few-minute conversation with one of your colleagues, or think about what stories you're going to tell about your clients, and you'll be able to generate a lot of content. Community story is for businesses that don't have clients. So let's give the example of the airport parking again. You don't really have a client that you can pinpoint, but what you can do instead is talk about the community initiatives that you have. And that's really big right now. There's a lot of great things happening out there, and so many people helping each other. So talk about what you're doing in the community. In a way, when you do community stories, you can't really talk about yourself. So make it about them. Just let that be like a total give. And there's a lot of businesses that are doing prizes and contests, and try to make it as much as possible at this time about what's happening out there and not about what's happening internally in your company that you're using this as a way to promote yourself. A helpful story is super important. This is where you can show off your expertise. So helpful story is all about going like a deep dive into your area of expertise. So it could be things like, if you're an event planner, this is, these are all the checklists that we have. This is how we use our project management tool. Imagine again that you're teaching an intern, and your client isn't going to use those things. Your ideal client is going to look at that and say, this is like, obviously this is too much work for me to do. I want to hire that person. And I always encourage my clients to just never think about, oh, but somebody's going to steal my idea. It actually doesn't really work that way, because you have so many things going on. This is just like one element of your business. You are a business leader because you've figured out the whole picture, not just this one little nugget. So don't be afraid of sharing, and don't share your your secret sauce, but share as much as you can as if you were teaching an intern. And those are just really powerful things that people can share with each other, and again, showing your expertise. So the bottom pieces are more about different ways to share that content. So engaging video. How can you get out, especially now, we can't go networking, we can't do one-on-ones with clients, so let them see you, your personality, your staff's personality, or whoever it is that's going to be the spokesperson for your company. Your salespeople, can they get on video and share these helpful stories? So now what you can do with video is you can video the company story, the ideas that you created around that. You can video, do a walkthrough of how you worked with your client, share that helpful story. So maybe it's just like a 2-minute summary of this long article, so then people are more interested in watching it. Other things that are great on video are just having picture collages, because right now we can't really get out and do stuff. So take those old photos that you've taken of projects that you've done, put them together and say, hey, just reviewing things that we were doing before, and we found these pictures in the archive. This is really fun. With video also right now, it's a good time to start, because everybody's really forgiving. So if you haven't been in front of the camera, you can start doing that now. And for example, I've got a white piece of paper behind me, and it creates a different look. We know that on Zoom now we can have our customized backgrounds, and sometimes if you put a green piece of paper behind you, it serves as a green screen. So you can make it look really cool. You can use Zoom and record yourself on Zoom and do a screen share and your video beside you. So now there's like all these new tools popping up that we didn't really know or have access to before. And so experiment with video. Interesting graphics. So this is also an interesting part of the experiment, is that when we shared branded images, it actually increased the visibility or the brand awareness of the company. So interesting graphic for me used to be putting a stat on some kind of a branded graphic. So I'm assuming that you've already taken care of your brand, you know what your brand colors are, and now you can create things that show off your expertise, like I don't know, 2,500 words is like the ideal blog format, or 126% of business owners. So that's like one way to do the graphics. Another way is, again, depending on your business, you might do inspirational quotes. So right now is a really good time to do inspirational quotes or share messages to the frontline workers. So that's where the interesting graphic can be useful to you. And then finally, now you have the chance. Now you're allowed to do something salesy. So now you can have your calls to action or your offers. And because you've been so helpful, and when I look at your social media, I look at all the valuable things that you've done, and every once in a while, you're asking for a call to action. So now that makes a lot of sense. And now I feel like I can trust you. So it's all about creating that trust with your consumer. So I'm going to go through some things that a jewelry store that we're helping. So this jewelry store had 3 locations in prominent malls here in Calgary, and they had never really done anything digital. So they came to us to ask, hey, how do we do this? What is the whole process? How do we set this up? So for company story, what we came up with is, we came up with a plan, and then we went backwards. So now this is the CEO. She had never been on camera before, and now she's on weekly. It's awesome. And she's doing great. So she videotapes herself every Monday saying, this is what we're doing this week. We're going to feature our artists. We're going to feature entrepreneurs in the community that are making a difference. And that's how she's telling her story. So this is, I was the entrepreneur featured last week. It was super fun. I took pictures at home because there was nowhere to go. And every week they're featuring a different entrepreneur. So that's an example of the client story. The helpful story, what they've done is they've taken videos of how they wear their jewelry. So this is what they're passionate about. This is what they do really well, is layering different kinds of jewelry. There's a thing to that, because I totally don't know it. So they're saying, this is what I'm wearing, and these are the different pieces, and this is how you combine different pieces of jewelry. So again, showing their expertise. And here's another way to use engaging video. So they're using tools like, there's a tool called B.live, where you can make a video and do Facebook Lives, or just another piece of software that you can use. Again, you can use Zoom. There's just so many. So they're interviewing the artists that make their jewelry, and how was it made, and what was your inspiration. So it's some really great storytelling. I know of another company who sells baby furniture, and they're starting to do that too. Like, what was your inspiration behind the design for this piece of furniture, or this gliding chair? Why did you get into gliding chairs and not regular chairs? And just kind of exploring the things that people might want to know while they're at home, or people want to buy stuff because they're passionate about it. And I think one of the important things to note right now is that even when everything comes back, people will go out of their way to buy things from the businesses that made a difference in the community at this time, or that have different practices. So if they know that your store is like extra clean, or you're following all these protocols, they've seen you online, they know the way that you do business, they're going to go out of their way and maybe not go to their regular place anymore to support that, or to feel secure. And it's all about, again, creating that trust. This is how they use the interesting graphics. So they do draws, and you nominate a frontline worker every week, and then they deliver jewelry to them. So this is the way that they figured out how to use that strategy, where that purple color is their brand color, and then they're using what's happening in today's environment to show a little bit of their brand. And then finally, they've got their call to action. So now they do 20% off and free shipping. And they've been a business that has never done discounts before. So this is like a chance for them to talk about, hey, these are extraordinary times, so we're doing something a little bit different to help our customers feel better by wearing jewelry. So it's all about getting into that the feeling of what's happening today and talking about it. Okay, so next I'm going to bring Kelly into the room, and we're going to talk about her business. So she has a home renovating business, and what we're going to do is do this like storytelling live, so you can see kind of like what the process is. So I'm just going to, if we could unmute Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about what's happening in your business.
So I run an interior design studio, and we essentially are a full service, high-end, I would say definitely luxury designer. And we work primarily with people who are doing whole home renovations, and kitchens, baths. We'll gut a house, work with the contractor to make everything, pretty, like a long HGTV show, we say. And what we have been, we actually are pretty lucky in that we have a lot of existing clients. But in reality, given the shelter in place that's enforced, especially in California, there's only so much we can do with those clients. And we are currently trying to figure out the best way to engage with our audience and be sensitive of the fact that some people are hurting financially, but at the same time recognizing that there's still a need for our services. And truthfully, a lot of our clients aren't the ones who are hurting, and potential clients can still move forward in ways that other people can't. So we're really trying to find a balance of having the conversations for what we have planned without seeming insensitive and ignoring kind of the reality for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning that before this, you had a kind of an idea for an Airbnb, which for people who own Airbnbs. And
so we've been working on, just to diversify a little bit, we've been working on a plan to help like some of the, I think it's Airbnb Plus, but luxury, like higher cost Airbnbs, provide them with almost like a turnaround service where they can buy hotel quality bedding from us, and it comes all together in a package. So we have a huge amount of inventory related to that because we have been negotiating with Italian brand of bedding, and so we are now recognizing that the Airbnb market is going to be lax for the next few months or so, and we're creating a new product that's for the homeowner that's considered a bed refresh, which includes our design service. So you'll get like a mood board that includes, based on what you tell us is already in the room, that'll include bedding that we already have and want to sell, as well as suggestions for the decorative pillows, and putting together packages like that. But just to give you like a background, like these packages are $750, right, for bedding, the duvet covers, the pillows, like the blankets, so it's like a whole bedroom ensemble. But when you can get a bed in a bag, from certain places for $150, $200, and that's kind of the problem we're running into in terms of how do we market it.
Okay. And then what do you think is your passion or your expertise? Like why do people do business with you?
I think my passion is luxury travel and kind of bringing that home, especially, well, I should say my passion is luxury travel, but now that we can't do that, what we're really trying to hit on is the notion of investing in your house so that you have a nice place to live. That's one of my pet peeves, when people don't invest in nice things in their house until they're ready to sell or until somebody else is going to enjoy it. And I really try to tell people that you invest in the important things so you can enjoy them right now. Forget that your kitchen looks crazy for 10 years and then you want to sell it and you make it nice, right? So this is kind of going along that lines as we push more content out, trying to say, no, invest in what you have right now to the best of your ability so that you can enjoy it and you're not always looking for an escape, right, to go on a vacation because your house is nice enough.
Right.
So we're doing a little bit of, that's kind of where we're focused.
Okay. And then how much does it usually cost to renovate a bedroom? Because usually you would, kind of take it all apart, or, what would
Yes.
you?
So we would probably say, I mean, from if we did a whole bedroom and the purchasing, we would tell somebody that they would at least need to invest $10,000, give or take, into their bedroom. That would include our fees, right? So, but that would include furniture, and we would charge somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 to design the space.
Okay, and what would you do in that space? Like, give me an example of what you would do.
For a full job, we would do the space planning, like telling you where to put the bed on the wall. We would select the bed. We would select all the bedding, which actually we would probably budget exactly what we are including in here, in our package, I should say. We would select the nightstands, the lighting, the rug, the window treatments, and we would order it and install it for you as well.
Okay. And is there like a design that comes with that, or like I guess there's some consultation?
Yeah, so we meet, we present that, you approve it, we order it and install it. So yeah, so it definitely is all the design related. So we pick, essentially we're a soup to nuts outfit where you meet with us, we talk about it, and then we do all the work, and you don't have to do anything except approve it and write checks.
Mm-hmm. And how do you know what somebody's gonna like?
It's a whole process. It's a concept. We call it the design concept process and presentation, where you give us your Pinterest boards or house boards, and then we look to see what you actually like. Because you can tell us, like, we just had a client who told us they wanted a California modern, and then they sent us all of their existing furniture, and it's like a rocking chair from 1823. And it's nothing modern. And so I don't think they understand what modern means. So we take that and then we show you images that kind of correlate to what you've asked us or what you've shown us and how we're going to interpret it. And then we tell you, it's a really eye-opening. I've done it for myself, actually, where I look at my kitchen Pinterest board. I'm like, oh, I thought I wanted this type of kitchen, but based on what I'm pinning, this is what it's clear that this is what I like more. So we do a whole analysis of your design,
right?
Design aesthetic, I should say.
Okay. So I'm going to focus on your product that you're trying to launch in the market. So it's a $750 bedding. And then when I showed my tips before, I talked about positioning. So the way that I would suggest positioning would be, usually I do a $5,000 to $10,000 bedroom renovation, but this is what we're doing right now to help our customers. We're doing a $750 package are you doing the design consultation with them to kind of figure out what their bedroom, I guess you would have to look and see, right?
But we'll have them it'll be a lesser, it's not a consultation because we don't ever want to talk to them, but they will be able to send images of what their bedroom currently looks like, and we'll pick based on that.
Exactly. So you're getting some expert advice. It's not just about buying these great pillows and bedding. You're also getting that expert advice of somebody who's done these amazing work in different people's homes. So we're kind of working backwards on the formula here. So that would be your promo post, and it would be just talking about that expertise. And also, I think your bedding and everything, it's unique, right? It's not something that you can buy at the store.
Right. It's only available to luxury hotel brands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So those would be all like the value proposition of that salesy post. And then if we move back to company story, you're the CEO of the company, and one of the things that you want to start doing is talking about that expertise. So just what you taught us today, or also you're really good at saying, okay, like what you said, you gave me a Victorian chair and you want to, how do I, if I'm not an expert at this, and maybe I don't have $10,000 right now, or I have a perception that I don't have $10,000. So we've all seen where somebody's like, oh, I can't take that yoga class, and then they've got their Louis Vuitton original part. Like, it's where you choose to spend your money based on your current values, your current situation. So what we're trying to do is educate people so that when they are ready, or the people who run across your your content, if it's of interest to them, you know, they might be ready at a future time, or they might have friends who are ready. So that's kind of the idea there, is positioning yourself as that design expert who really gives honest advice, and creating some content around that. So what I like to do from a storyboard perspective is kind of think of like 3 or 6 ideas. And then that way, let's say that you have 1 idea a month, you have 6 things that you can talk about. So you can share the story of how, you know, there was a chair, and what does modern mean, right? So maybe those are some of the things that you talk about. Or one day it's a bedroom that you're talking about, another day it's the living room. There's like so many different elements that you could come up with, and it's about sharing your personality and your expertise.
Okay.
Okay, so the second thing on the client side is that you can start pulling out some of those, I'm sure you have before and after pictures, or at least after pictures, because sometimes we forget to take the befores. And you can start pulling out some of those stories and talking about, okay, this is what we did here. Like, just really get into the fine details of this is how we took this living room, and it used to have these other kinds of pillows, or you know, talking about the impact or the difference that you made on the client, and not just from the design side, but also I'm sure that you also design for like lifestyle. Well, they've got 2 dogs, or they've got like 5 kids, so they, you know, they couldn't have what they wanted. They, you know, they made these accommodations because of the kids. You don't have like, I don't know, plush couches sometimes if your kids are going to eat their chips on them. So those kind of things. So talking about with your business, it would be like what the design was like, the elements that were added. Maybe there's like a budget range, and then what the impact of the client was. Okay, and then in helpful stories, maybe you start looking at the different processes that you do. Like the Pinterest thing sounds amazing, and it sounds like you want to look at the pieces that aren't common knowledge. So I didn't know that you did a design process, and that, like, how do you figure out what a perfect bedroom is for a couple? So looking into just a few more of those details. And I think that's going to be helpful right now, because we're in such a fast-paced environment while we're in our homes. So you want to go deeper than just like the norm. So whatever everybody else is talking about, so Google your competitors, or other things I like to do is Google people in different cities, especially if you're like a local business that is kind of like human to human interaction. Then I'll go like New York, or, you know, some Paris, whatever, and see what they're doing. So that always triggers ideas on different things you could be talking about. And if you're like, ooh, I forgot that I did that, or you just not talking about the norm. So if you look at IKEA and they're talking about it, you don't talk about it. Okay. Right? Yeah. So keeping that boutique, that high end, you know, look and feel, and that's what you're going to be talking about. And then when it comes to video, you're starting to, you know, you can talk on video, you can interview other people. One of the things that happens sometimes is business owners, it's really hard to talk to the wall, let me tell you. So what you can do is find a friend to talk to, a colleague, and maybe they're like in a related business, and you guys can like chit chat about stuff, and you take that video as your content. So it could be her turn one week and your turn one week, and then that way you can have like a human conversation. Because let me tell you, it's really hard to speak to the wall.
Right.
And then with your interesting graphic, we talked about having a picture. You can, again, maybe just show one picture of something you've done, but then brand it, put your logo on the bottom, or what my graphic designer likes to say, put a treatment on it. So maybe you hire a graphic designer to do like that first set where you have like some kind of, if your brand colors are purple, then there's like something purple. So then you start changing your images into something that, oh, whenever they see that, oh, that's Kelly's brand. So it's not just like a stock photo. They know that it's somehow related to you, right? And with my brand's like really loud, and it's like, it's actually Ferrari red, and then I don't know what the other colors are, but I'm excited about that. Blue and purple, some kind of blue and purple. And so I always, mix those into what I'm doing. And I want people to know that these are our images. And of course, I'm a marketing company, so just go a little bit overboard, but there's ways that you can have something on your images that just always reminds people that that's you. And then we already talked about your call to action. So the call to action is talking. And so you might have the same call to action month over month, and then you just would talk about different things. So let's say for the blankets and the bed, well, right now we are all in our homes, and why not, take this time to renovate the way that we want to. And maybe we can't have people coming in, but we can, this is like the DIY, this is the do it yourself, but it's upscale. You're not going to be like messing things up or sewing
right.
or buying the wrong sheets, right? And it, it's a time to, hey, let's take this time to take care of yourself, because we're all thinking about taking care of ourselves and even mental wellness. So it's a time to wear jewelry, to wear lipstick, and to maybe have like some really nice soft sheets for when you go to bed, and the end of the day is a bit exhausting. So
right. Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? Do you have any questions?
It's a lot. I guess the question I have is, like, realistically, how long should all this take, right? If we have something that we're technically ready to launch now, should we launch it and then kind of come back and do all the back end stuff? Because, I mean, if we launch it, we still want people to purchase it for longer than the launch, right? It's a one-time thing. But does it make sense to put in more of the groundwork first and hold on to it and then launch? But my biggest concern is that, not concerned. Hopefully we get out of this house soon, right? And the pivot that I made is less important. I don't know, in fairness, I don't know if that's true for the long haul, just because even if we get out, we're still going to be limited. But it's something to consider in terms of it is a time frame thing that will be helpful to.
So I would start preparing yourself to launch right away. But if you are able to do like the 6 tiles or the 6 elements, or even like 3 of them, where you're like company story, client story, helpful article, and then your promo post, then you have a little bit of a foundation laid there, right? Okay. And you could do it all at once. So let's say you take like an hour, a couple hours of your day these days, and then you say, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm actually going to talk about this awesome thing that I've created. I'm going to talk that we're changing our business a little bit. So it's about, again, being human. It's like selling to your friend. Hey, you know what? I was doing this thing before. I can't do it now. I have these amazing sheets, this amazing concept, and this is what I want to show you guys. And then your next piece would be, this is the kind of work that I've done before. So look at some examples of, like, I'm a true expert at what I do. So that's your client story. Number 3 is, usually this is how we design stuff, but what we're going to do for this project is we're going to say, submit your pictures of your room, and we're going to match it up to you. And now number 4 is, here's my offering. It's usually $10,000, but we figured out a way to DIY, and it's $750. So now that's your whole campaign.
Okay.
That's your storyboard for this week. And then you do it all over again.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Because I am concerned. We have been laying the groundwork for the Airbnb thing, with blog posts and kind of telling the story that we want, like, oh, I travel a lot. I'm always staying in Airbnbs. Their bedding always sucks. And, trying to lay that out.
Yeah.
And so we haven't really transitioned. And honestly, we just, are busy. So we weren't doing it. It was like a longer launch. But now I'm of the mindset that we should just get this out and see what happens. And then,
and you can
talk about. Yeah. Okay.
Melinda, Melinda's saying just around. So yeah, you can talk about that. You were thinking of doing this for luxury Airbnb, and just tell that story, because it's super relatable that we're all changing the way that we do business, and that things are different. Yeah.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I hope you all learned something. You had fun. On next week's webinar is on productivity. So we have somebody who's an amazing a coach who teaches people how to organize their quarters, months, weeks, days, hours. And then the week after that, we have a 3-time best-selling author. He's the author of several books. And he's actually going to show us how to do self-publishing. I'm super excited about that one. That one's in 2 weeks. So thank you for joining us on Project Lemons to Lemonade, and hope you had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.